Welcome to the Academy of Man podcast, where we explore life's profound questions, share personal experiences, and delve into philosophical discussions. Please note that all content shared here reflects our personal opinions and is intended for entertainment and thought-provoking purposes only. This podcast may challenge your perspectives and even cause you to question your own reality. Viewer discretion is advised.
There we go.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. This is the
Academy of Man.
This is the Academy of Man podcast number 2 with Joel Ruiz and my co-host Edgar Rios.
Mm-hmm. Yes,
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. I hope you guys enjoyed our episode number 1, and we're back to have a higher level conversation on this amazing podcast.
Yeah, and if you're here for round 2, essentially, we want to thank you, 1, for tuning in, and 2, for bearing with us for that first conversation. The conversations are only going to get better and better from here. This is kind of like the first time I had a full-blown conversation recorded, and I listened back to it. So yeah, it's a pleasure to be here, bro, again, for sure.
Yeah. What was your take on the conversation number 1?
I loved it. It felt so free flow. There were a few times where I set a plane off, but I didn't really land it because of like my own brain. I had like popcorn thoughts.
Yeah.
And I feel like part of the reason why we have such good conversation is because we can navigate each other's popcorn thoughts.
Yes.
Like you also have them also. So we tend to jump.
Yeah,
a lot,
for sure.
And then before we even land, and then in the end, we land the first plane.
Exactly.
But we already launched like 6 more of them.
Yep.
So it kind of left me with a sense of unsatisfactory, but I was still pleased with it. It's like it's only up from here.
Yeah.
So I wasn't tripping about it, you know?
Yeah, same here. I thought that overall, we did have, again, like technical difficulties and, we had a couple of hiccups.
It was our first one.
I literally told you that we had like a 98% chance that we were not going to be successful on the first one. Yeah. But I thought it came out pretty well.
Yeah, I thought it came out great for that percentage.
Yeah.
We got lucky.
So in this conversation today, we're going to be talking about our demons.
Yeah, and just the importance of overall acknowledging the fact that.
So today we're recording this podcast with literally my daughter in my arms. Just because my wife is out of the city and I had to take care of her, and Edgar and I have told each other that we needed to get it done today, and
deadlines, man,
deadlines gonna come up, you know.
Yeah, so for warning, if you hear a baby cooing in the back or anything like that, just know it is Selma. She is chilling in Joel's arms right now, and she does not want to go to sleep. So
we have been trying for like an hour to put her to sleep.
I just told them, why continue fighting it, just grab her and we'll just talk away. But yes, I think that whenever I'm explaining or talking with somebody in regards to these topics, this topic specifically, I'm always mentioning about how we're like onions. There's so many layers to us, and those layers are always compiling. And once you conquer one demon, there's always going to be a dragon. And then once you conquer the dragon, on the way to the next one, there's going to be an ogre waiting in the forest. And there's always going to be something. And
do you think that's just the mere fact that we're human?
Yeah, I think a lot of it boils down to consciousness and the human condition. But yeah, there's actually no but to that, bro. I think it's very, very important to just acknowledge that the demons are there.
Yeah.
Because it's like, what are you even fighting, right? There needs to be a battle. There needs to be a journey, and there needs to be a victor, and there needs to be a loser, right? So
it's the hero's journey.
Yeah.
Right?
You can't fight a battle you don't know you're having.
That's true.
And that's why I'm putting so much emphasis on, sure, sometimes like labeling these things as a demon could be it could be counterproductive to some people. Like most things, when you give knowledge, if it's not digested or executed properly, it can easily become counterproductive towards that person. And I say that because I was listening to Sadhguru recently, and he was talking about how when a traumatic situation happens to someone, they could either become wounded or you can become wise. And he says that a lot of people choose the wounded route because it acts like a badge of honor for you to be. It's like a badge for your. It's like a statement that no sé cómo decirlo, explicarlo, pero it verifies the position that you're in to you, and it helps you cope with it in an unhealthy way. You're like labeling it and just saying, this traumatic situation happened to me, and this is the reason why I am the way I am, even though I don't like it. A lot of people stay in that wounded, and they through this demon talk sometimes put a badge on it and just walk around and this is my demon.
It's definitely a victim mentality for sure.
Yeah.
The fact that you mentioned that you can either become wise from it or you could become wounded.
Yeah.
Are basically two very important paradigm shifts in our mentality overall.
Duality, right?
Yeah.
He also, in that same conversation, he talks about how the person who faces most adversity has the potential to become the wisest the fastest, or the most traumatized the fastest.
When I was younger, when I was 9 years old, I had the most traumatic event that ever happened to me in my life.
Till this day?
To this day.
Interesting.
For sure. I've had a lot of traumatic events, but I think for a 9-year-old is almost ground shaking.
Yeah.
Like earth shattering kind of event. And it was when my father almost killed my mother.
Oh my! I'm sorry that happened to you.
I'm not sure if I ever told you this.
You've shared this with me in the past, but never the full story.
So when I was 9 years old, an event happened, outside of my control, and I remember having to deal with the trauma afterwards.
Yeah.
But I was 9 years old, so I didn't really know how to digest the information of what had happened, right? So I remember they had put me in therapy. It didn't work. I became just like super angry. Actually, matter of fact, it became almost like a stamp of who I would eventually become.
Yeah, and what's interesting is that for a 9-year-old, I don't even think you had the potential to understand that it was a stamp. I think that is a lot of people's almost immediate reaction and response to something traumatic, if that makes any sense. Like, you don't have the capacity to digest that and become wise from it. No. And I think that's why also a lot of people, not comparing the world to you, but a lot of humans also fall into that mentality or that wounded state very easily, because they're just, for lack of a better word, incapable of digesting it and understanding the situation properly. Let me ask you this. I'm going to cut you off. I'm sorry to cut you off, but how differently do you think you would react as the adult and the man you are now, as a father yourself?
Completely different.
In what sense?
So, for example,
you said you became angry almost.
Oh, yeah.
I also feel like maybe unknowingly, because if I asked 9-year-old Joel who was going through that, you think he would have gave me the answer because my dad hit my mom? No, he wouldn't. Or at least, no, I don't think he would.
There's no way that he would even understand.
Yeah, it's almost accidental.
Yeah.
Adolescent behavior at its finest. But carry on.
Yeah, so to your point, everything and everyone became an enemy at that point.
Okay, we're good.
Everything and everyone became an enemy at that point.
Interesting.
And there was no... Like, literally, it was like a turning point in my life. Like, I was a good kid. Prior to that, I was a little bit troublesome, but not to the extent where, I just wanted to hurt people.
Yeah.
And I wanted to cause people pain, right? What is that phrase, that the misery loves company?
Yeah.
100% true.
Yeah.
And so I just wanted everybody around me to just be as miserable, if not worse, than I was.
Yeah. Is this why? And I'm sorry to jump.
Please go ahead.
Is this why you identified a lot with my Joker tattoo when I explained the Joker philosophy to you?
What was the Joker philosophy again?
It was that you notice how in cartoons and even in movies, the Joker never outright brutally tortures or kills someone for the sake of being pleased at the fact that they die. He gets pleasure, and the reason why him and Batman are kind of in this cat and mouse chase is because he wants to prove to the world that everyone is one bad day away from becoming just like him, just so that he can verify or give himself the satisfaction of proving to the world that he's not crazy.
Yeah. Right.
And the reason why he chases Batman so much is because during a time where Batman was faced with a traumatizing, world-shattering experience, he decided to take on a sense of morality and decided to make sure, or try to make sure to the best of his capability, that nobody else feels this ever again. This is why he puts on the Bat costume.
I see.
And Joker, when he was faced with his traumatic world,
he wanted the whole world to experience the same thing.
He wanted to watch the world burn.
Yeah.
But not because he was angry at them, but because he needed to give himself the satisfaction of seeing that in somebody else to make him feel less alone.
Yeah.
And yeah, I see your eyes. Your eyes are like wandering right now. What do you think?
No, it's very interesting because two things come up to in my head. First, in the movie Batman Begins, Alfred, yeah, gives him a statement, and he talks about he describes a story in which they're like somewhere in South America or something, and they're looking for like rubies, right? Like precious diamonds. And he says that they find this village in which kids are playing soccer with these diamonds, right? And I wish I could remember the entire like story behind it, but at the end of the phrase, he was saying that some men just want to watch the world burn.
Yeah.
Right? And I genuinely related to that. Like, if you had a chance to be a superhero or have a superpower, would you be a superhero or would you be a villain?
I like to think I'll be a hero.
I like to think I'll be a villain.
How come?
I don't know.
That's deep, bro.
That is deep.
That's deep.
I've this is something that I've told Samantha multiple times, that is like, God bless me to not have any superpowers, because I'll probably be the type of person to not necessarily care about the world, but care about my own.
What's interesting is that you got to have the capacity to be a villain in order to be a hero.
You think so?
You have to, bro. Jordan Peterson, my bread and butter, says that all the time. There's nothing virtuous about being a rabbit, incapable of murder, if you will. They are in their own little way, I guess, but at a grand scale, they're just graceful creatures.
They're just
that
meat
just exist
for a predator,
right?
Basically.
Yeah. And I just think it's so interesting, because immediately I was considering how adolescent that kind of behavior is, and I was thinking about when you don't know what to do as a child, or in general, a lot of the times when you feel hurt, you want to kind of get even, right? Like, you don't always think about the most virtuous way to go about it. You kind of just want to, somebody hits you, your immediate reaction is to hit them back as a kid. And I feel like a lot of that trickles into adulthood whenever kids don't learn how to properly manage that. And yeah, I don't know if I'm making 100% sense, but
as a matter of fact, I would argue that there is a large percentage of the adult population that are still running on teenage software.
Yeah, for sure, bro. Because no way as an adult, when you can't get right, you want to get even. It's like, bro, what? You can't get right, just take your L. You know what I mean? You lost, and just keep it moving.
That's it.
Turn that L to a lesson, and just keep rolling with the punches and keep going, take on the next fight or the next battle.
It's funny that you mentioned the whole fact of becoming wise or becoming wounded, because when I was wounded, I decided to become wise.
Yeah.
Ironically,
it's all duality, right? You have even to a certain extent, right? You need to kind of be wounded in order to become wise. One doesn't really come before the other. And it's knowledge. My boss Gilroy likes to talk about this a lot. He says you can have the knowledge in something, but you don't have the wisdom. And I say, Jefe, what do you consider wisdom, right? Because I don't necessarily 100% back people. You cannot coach basketball if you've never been an NBA player. And so are you telling me that an NBA coach, there are plenty of them who never played in the league, who coach pretty successful teams,
right?
Are you saying that
a lot of
knowledge? Yeah, you saying that knowledge? I mean, he described wisdom as applied knowledge, and to a certain extent, I agree with him. And I'm trying to poke holes in it right now as we're talking about it, because I haven't thought about this in a while, but I think that that's the best way to kind of like identify the two at this very moment: knowledge and wisdom. So knowledge being the know about, the ins and out of something, but wisdom is somebody who has applied it, that applied that knowledge successfully. And not saying that you can't get wise off of applying knowledge unsuccessfully, but when doing things like learning a trade that is very high stake in your life, you want to go to somebody who has applied a certain amount of knowledge successfully. Yeah. And break that down. Sorry if I'm sidetracking. My brain's going crazy. But continue.
No, I think the argument of wisdom can be applied into many different scenarios, right? So, for example, there are, especially when you're Spanish, right? There are phrases and deep knowledge passed down through generations and generations just through phrases, right? Like, a bird in the hand is worth two in the bush, for example. And there's 100 and there's thousands of them.
And those phrases are acquired through wisdom.
Correct.
Though, so it's almost kind of like trickling down a little bit, right? Like they're kind of making that crossover a little easy. But we cannot forget that we're talking about this, and we can't dismiss the burden of life itself, the pressures the world puts on us, and so I understand why people sometimes have the knowledge but don't have the wisdom, or sometimes even vice versa.
There's a conversation I've heard once. Someone discussed the same topic, where I have an aunt that would always tell her sons and her son and her daughter, just phrases and wisdom, just try to drill it into their head, right? Why? And I remember one time me and her were having a conversation, and she said, the reason why I do that is because there are going to be situations and scenarios in which they are going to be faced with a situation or a scenario in which the wisdom that I'm providing them can be applied.
That's so interesting.
It is up to them now.
In that moment.
In
those moments.
And she's not there to tell you whether that wisdom is applicable. At that moment or not.
You can't cite your source. You can't refer to a source or anything. I think it's so interesting. I was talking with, when I was in school, actually, to be an educator, I identified that there's no perfect learning environment. And I also identified that while you're teaching, one of the biggest adversities you're going to face as a teacher is trying to nudge these kids into thinking in the right direction. Because what you're doing in things like grade school, high school, etc., before you hit college, you're not really educating like core. You're kind of trying to just set a foundation of a thought process. And there's a lot of untraining to do when you get there. As far as like, you know, the adolescent behavior, I hit you, you're going to hit me back right away. No,
for sure.
Let's identify why you got hit first.
Yeah.
And then maybe just don't do that again.
Yeah.
You don't have to hit him back. I mean, what are you going to get from that?
Yeah. It's crazy.
Yeah.
Thinking back, and I can tell you for a fact that just my brain was not ready to comprehend.
Yeah. Like I always say, bro, there's nothing more complex on this planet than the psyche of another human being.
Yeah.
And it's so interesting because sometimes, like, I get this way a lot with my personal family and sometimes my personal friends. They express their issue to me, and it's something that I've immediately can refer to because I've gone through it. And it's so hard to attack that problem or it's so hard to address that problem with them sometimes because sometimes, not all the time, they're just not ready. And what I mean by that, there's like, you need to know what credit is before you buy a house, right? You need to know. So if you don't even know what, I'm using the real estate example because I know that that's your bread and butter and you're an expert in it. And, or I consider you my expert in it. But some people just can't, they just want the house.
Yeah.
And it's like, I could give you the answer that helped me, but you need to identify what the fuck credit is first.
Yeah.
And before that, you need to acknowledge what your overhead is and what is your you know, your income y tus deudas. Like,
yeah.
And I think that as somebody who is trying to help coach somebody, you have to really go all the way back. And it can be really hard to do if you don't know the person 100%. So it's so complex, bro.
Yeah.
And some of it has honestly left me like arms up with it. I'm just like, you know what? It's going to play out the way it's going to play out. Some lessons are best taught just by fucking falling flat hard in your face or succeeding. Figure it out, bro. And I'm not saying that is a healthy or that's not the prescription to the dilemma, but I think that.
But you know what? Is that how else do you get applied knowledge?
By eating shit, bro. That's literally the crazy part, right? Like,
like how do you? Let me ask you something. As a boxer, how many books in boxing? How many books in regards to boxing have you read?
None.
Okay. Would you consider yourself an amateur?
Yeah.
At boxing?
Yeah.
Right?
On paper, I am.
On paper.
Yeah.
Would you be able to teach someone the basics of boxing?
Not if they got 2 left feet.
Okay.
You got to start off. If I was training somebody that never boxed before, I would get an idea of their coordination.
So you completely skipped the, what do they call it? The theoretical.
I did. I got lucky because I was a dancer prior, so
Yeah.
I already had the sense of rhythm that they, you know, sometimes have to train into one before they can become a boxer.
Yeah.
So I was very, very lucky. I was able to excel a little bit quicker than most because of my coordination and my dance background.
Sure.
Yeah.
But what I'm trying to get to is that the mere fact that you had to jump into boxing, you didn't sit down and read 1,000 books
No,
on how to throw a right punch,
right,
a left hook. You didn't read anything. You didn't go into a theoretical perspective of boxing because it doesn't even make sense. Yeah. Right? You had to show up, eat shit to become an amateur.
Yeah. Get beat up a lot.
Beat up a lot. And so I genuinely think this is one of the biggest problems that I have with like conventional education. Right?
Okay.
So if I'm taking a course in entrepreneurship, which I did, and then I asked my professor, have you ever been an entrepreneur? No, I have never been an entrepreneur. All right. So what are you teaching me? Are you just teaching me the conventional wisdom of being an entrepreneur? Yeah. I, who have gone through...
Who already had a business.
Who have had a business. I remember. And have run businesses on my own. I am a business. Literally. can sit you down and tell you, like, bro, like, these are the pitfalls that you should look into, right?
So maybe that class just wasn't for you.
Maybe.
Yeah, because I don't know. I don't think you would deny either if you thought about it. What I would have gotten if I was sitting in that class as somebody who wasn't a business owner.
Maybe.
Remember, in that sense, I was the one with 2 left feet. If I was in that class with you, I wouldn't have not known what a sole proprietor is, what a DBA is, what an LLC is, or the difference, or how to navigate those, the benefits.
I'm glad you mentioned that, because regardless of whether you had taken that class or not, it doesn't mean that you would start a business. Right.
But I think that and so what'd you call it? What kind of education did you call it?
Theoretical.
You call it core theoretical, I think you used the word core to explain the education, and that's exactly what education does.
I see.
So for people like me, for example, and I'm just getting over this hurdle of just adulthood, right? But I think that my creative writing class helped me a lot. Even though I was already a very creative writer, it helped me become more aware of how to properly structure sentences. It enhanced my ability to do what I enjoyed doing, which was at the time creative writing.
Do you think that it enhanced your thinking skills?
No, but what I think it did was it helped me put pen on paper a lot, and it helped teach me the proper ways of a sentence, so that now I can go ahead and create my own even better than what I was doing. But that only applies to a certain amount, right? Because real estate and entrepreneurship within reason is already figured out.
Yeah,
it's not
the majority of it.
It's not really. It's
the knowledge is out there.
Yeah, the knowledge is out there, right? So it's not like the definition of an LLC or a DBA is going to change. It might, right, within reason, but it's a solid thing already. And if you know those things already, I don't think.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
Entrepreneur
you
class
would have had an edge.
Yeah. In the class, of course, you would have just passed it with flying colors and numbers. But to the person that doesn't know at all what an entrepreneur is, that class might have changed their life.
That's true. It's a perspective.
It is a perspective, 100%. And I think you were wrong in taking that class. Yeah, I think you needed a class more on how to properly run a business instead of entrepreneurship.
Accounting 101.
Accounting maybe, or even break it down further, right? Accounting, philosophy.
Yeah.
Maybe some math in there.
Yeah.
Oh, wait, is accounting math? I don't know.
Accounting is math.
Yeah.
It has to
maybe
do with
statistics. Math. You would have benefited from a statistics class. So that's what education really, really is at its point. It gives you the toolbox.
Yeah.
It doesn't give you the house.
Yeah.
It'll give you the wood. It'll give you the screws.
It'll give me the
nails, the framework, the blueprint on how to do it. It gives you the skill set, basically.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Right now I'm going to school for computer science.
Yeah. I remember, yeah.
And I got calculus.
Yeah.
And physics. And right now I'm taking chemistry.
Yeah. These are all classes that, statistically speaking, have been geared towards benefiting somebody who is what was your major again?
Computer science.
A computer science technician.
You know what's funny? Now that I am an adult, I actually have come to appreciate education to a different level.
Yeah.
So, for example,
I'm so happy to hear that.
Yeah, for real. I remember that in high school I never took chemistry. Right? And then I watched Breaking Bad. I'm not sure if you ever watched Breaking Bad.
Yeah.
The genius of a chemist.
Yeah.
And then I started thinking, I'm like, wait a minute, I never took chemistry.
Yeah.
I have no idea how chemistry works.
Right.
So now I'm
such an interesting science.
It's incredible science.
Yeah.
And now I'm going back to school, and literally the other day on Thursday, we were trying to figure out how exactly density, like how do you find the density of an object? And when I learned how you can find the density of an object, it blew my mind.
Yeah.
Because then I started thinking, I was like, wait a minute, who the fuck thought about this?
Right. Who thought to explain this way?
did you know that Isaac Newton was the founder of calculus?
I did not know that.
Yeah.
No.
He created
math.
He created calculus.
Yeah. Wow.
He created calculus, which is the I hope I'm not saying the wrong fact. I'm gonna have to look this up, but I'm pretty sure it is. He created calculus.
The listeners will correct you.
Yeah, for sure.
In the comments.
And so, Albert Einstein proved one of his theories wrong, right? And with the Albert Einstein proof of relativity, I'm chopping the actual
theory
phrase.
Of relativity.
Theory of relativity. Yeah. And the people who were the big scientists during the time, they were saying, "Are you telling me that this kid is proving Sir Isaac Newton wrong?"
Yeah.
And they're like, "Yeah, he is." But Albert Einstein would have never gotten there without the fundamentals of Isaac Newton.
Yeah.
And to me,
we spoke about this a few months back.
Yeah.
When we spoke about how the world is built off of the shoulders of giants.
We are literally standing on the shoulders of giants.
Yeah.
And I was talking about this with another individual where I was saying that one of the most fascinating aspects of humanity is the fact that we can pass down knowledge.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And not even always directly pass it down. Like sometimes even indirectly. Like the example I could immediately think to is the Chris Brown and the Michael Jackson conversation.
Mm-hmm.
There needed to be a Michael Jackson before there was a Chris Brown, right? And there needed to be I forgot his name, but this other guy before there could be a Michael.
Mm-hmm.
And then so same for basketball. Like there needed to be a Michael Jordan before there can be a Kobe. There needed to be a Michael Jordan before there needed to be
a LeBron.
Like
literally.
it goes even further down. I'm
I'm
navigating this with the database of a 26-year-old, but so I agree 100%. I think it's so interesting to think about, and those fundamentals is a lot of the times what people think that we have lost sight of, but no, we're just evolving, bro.
Yeah, we're just evolving.
Trae Young, people like Trae Young or Devin Booker, I'm talking about basketball again, don't always
we're good. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. But when as we continue to evolve and stuff, that the fundamentals become fundamental.
Yeah.
Like it's just
I
don't know if I explained if
no,
that makes
that's
sense.
Literally
but it's just like
that phrase is noteworthy.
Yeah.
The fundamentals become fundamental.
Yeah. It's like nowadays we have high school players who 20 years ago, 30 years ago will be playing at the most elite NBA level there is.
Oh yeah.
And it's so interesting to witness and just like acknowledge and appreciate.
When you think about, for example, Stephen Curry.
Yeah.
Like he fundamentally changed the game.
Oh yeah, 100%.
Like
he changed how the entire
Like I was watching a video of like a couple of high school students that were literally every time they would turn over the ball, we're just shooting from the midcourt.
Yeah. Yeah. It goes even deeper. Like Chris Bosh, the stretch 5 position, he opened the door for there to be smaller centers because the Draymonds, it goes so deep.
Yeah.
But to circle us back, have you ever been faced? And I'm asking this a little bit selfishly, but I think maybe some of the listeners will be able to relate. Have you ever been faced with a demon that you feel like is inconquerable? And just, if you have been, and you found yourself already slayed that, could you share?
I think the first one that really comes to mind is lust. Like that is the one that as a man, and this is a conversation I've had with my brother Joan, that we've discussed it, that one of the biggest struggles that I had as a teenager, young adult, was dealing with lust,
Yeah.
with the innate deep desire to have sex.
Interesting.
And that to me was one of the demons that I truly thought it was
Inconquerable.
Yeah. Like I remember one time going to church, the like early days. I mean, I'm talking about like I'm an atheist at this point, right? And I remember listening to the preacher say, you know, these are things that you have to give up: drugs, sex, this, that. And I was like, look, listen, buddy, I'll give up the drugs, I'll give up the stealing, I'll give up the lying, I'll even give up cursing.
Yeah.
But don't take sex away from me.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, yeah.
And I went celibate for 4 years.
Wow.
Literally. And those 4 years of being in celibacy, and this is something that not a lot of men talk about. When a man goes into celibacy, talk about a paradigm shift. Talk. I'm serious, bro. You know Patrick Bet-David?
Yeah, of course, yeah.
Patrick Bet-David went 2 years in celibacy.
Really?
Yes.
Really? Wow.
Where it's like going into a cave and saying, bro, I'm not getting out of here until I shed this fucking skin, bro.
Wow.
Literally, like I'm a snake right now, and I'm not getting out of here until I shed this skin.
Yeah.
That's what celibacy does to a man. I'm not even lying. Look it up.
Is that what you feel like you did?
Yeah.
Psychologically speaking?
For sure.
In order to kind of like starve that lust?
Yes.
You put yourself in a cave. So no porn, obviously.
No porn.
Did you limit your interaction with women at all?
Nope. There were a lot of things that I did, and we're talking about 16, 17-year-old Joel.
Yeah, that's a horny boy, bro.
You know what I'm saying?
16-year-old, 17-year-old.
And I went into celibacy, and it was, bro, it was hard, but you realize, like, I almost became disgusted.
Yeah.
At just like the women that would throw themselves at me. Like I'd be like, bro, why? Like, I don't even want you. Like, stay away from me. Like, I remember there were certain situations where women would give me their number, and they would be like, oh, you know, it's your birthday, let's hook up, da-da-da. I'll take the number, I'll rip it up, bro. Like that.
Wow. Yeah.
But eventually, look where it got me.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, I was able to find a decent partner.
Yeah.
Who I married and had a family with, and like the whole 9 yards.
Yeah.
And it was because I really honed into that, and I genuinely thought that there was no way.
Yeah.
Until you just like literally took it one day at a time.
That's interesting.
That's
bro.
the one demon.
That was.
And you know what's funny? When you read Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill, he discusses that men in general lack the. There's a chapter I believe it's chapter 6 or 7 that discusses sex transmutation. Right? It's an amazing book. You should read it. Or
yeah,
you should
I have not read that yet. No.
He discusses sex transmutation, where he says that the majority of men have never figured out that they can utilize their sex energy and transfer it into a more productive form of outcome. That your sex energy doesn't necessarily have to be a nut. That it can be creativity. Yeah. It can be business. It can be etc. Whatever the hell you want it to be, you take that sex energy and then you apply it to it. And that those men like become exponentially more successful.
Interesting.
Than the other men. And those men who do not the reason why most men do not become millionaires and multimillionaires, before the age of 40 is because of that. Because they have not figured out that they can utilize their sex energy in a different way.
Yeah, or they're utilizing their overall energy incorrectly.
When you think about when you think about all the men who are suffering today from child support.
Yeah. A lot of it is because of that inability to starve that lust.
Exactly.
Yeah.
The people who have multiple families,
Right.
who
Also
inherently destroy their own family.
Yeah.
Right? Is because of that, bro.
Yeah.
Because the man has not learned to utilize that energy in a different way, and only believes and only knows that there's only one output to that energy.
Yeah.
Changed my mind. Like when I read that, and this is a book that was written in 1920s.
Oh, I didn't know it was that old.
Yeah. It's almost it's 100 years old. The Napoleon Hill.
Napoleon is a very old name. I don't know why I didn't put that together.
Napoleon Hill was hired by Carnegie.
Mm-hmm.
If you ever look into Carnegie Hall, Carnegie University.
Yeah. Carnegie Hill is, I think, is like an editor, a major editor for a book, so.
Yeah.
Something like that.
He hired Napoleon Hill, and he told him, listen, and this we're talking about back in the days, like 1900s.
Mm-hmm.
He said, listen, I want you to go out there. I want you to interview 500 of the most successful individuals in America, right? And I want you to find out what made them successful. And it took him, if I'm not mistaken, anywhere between 10 to 20 years to finish that book.
Wow.
And one of the items that he touches on is sex transmutation.
Yeah.
Where he says that the men who are blessed with high sex energy perform at a different level than those men who don't. I
need to read this book.
It's amazing, bro. He says that
Think and Grow Rich.
Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. He says that that your woman is your inspiration. That men who have secretaries, right? Like they high status men, they come into their office and they see their secretaries and they are inspired to perform at a different level. Like, it's insane, bro.
Yeah.
I know we went in a rabbit hole, but
nah, it's good. It's good. It's okay.
This is one of those demons that I genuinely believe that people have not figured out, and I think that we're gonna suffer.
Yeah, I think you just made a lot of people aware of that too. Yeah, including myself. I asked that because I had I'm currently fighting a demon right now.
Yeah.
That I feel like is inconquerable, because I'm at the mercy of our health insurance system here within the U.S. and specifically New York. And for me lately in general, this has been my bread and butter. I'm sorry I'm bringing this up again, but since my last relationship, I've been in a very deep psychological hole. And I don't like using the D word, and I call it the D word. It means depression. Yeah. I've been very depressed. And I remember I chat GPT'd how to not be depressed.
What did it say?
And it said, work out, spend time with your friends, and find God.
Wow.
Those were the top 3. It gave me a few more, but those were the top 3. So I started working out more. I started going to boxing more. Started lifting alone. I have days where I lift alone, go to a different gym and everything. Yeah. And I started spending a lot. I started leaning into my friends, because I got a really cool group of people. And then the finding God part was very interesting for me. At first, I found myself leaning a little bit more towards Islam. And I noticed that it's a very disciplinary based religion.
Oh yeah, for sure.
And then I started leaning into Christianity a little bit, and I don't know a lot of Muslims. Okay. So maybe this is why I'm leaning a little bit more towards the Christian side. But I noticed that every Christian, hardcore Christian that I've met, even you in the past, was able to carry themselves with this amount of grace that I've always admired. And I wake up every single day and I think about my to-do list, the things that I need to get done to make sure that I eat, right? and to make sure that I eat next month and the month after that. And I would always be fascinated, because the first thing I think about when I meet these people is like, wow, you must sleep very well, and you must have the most peaceful awakening every single day when you wake up, because you know God's got you.
Yep.
And I envied that so much. And I've leaned into Christianity so much, and I've not been able to reach that point. I don't go to church every Sunday, but I've read the Bible. I've read most of the Bible. The
Bible is not a book to be read.
Hear me out.
Go ahead.
And I feel like recently I've found part of the cheat code. And I say part because I still feel like I have this sense of urgency every once in a while. So I was listening to Jordan Peterson describe the crucifix.
Okay.
And he says, why do you think the Christians chose the cross as their symbol? And the student gave an answer that was partially correct, but not entirely. But he said they chose the crucifix because it represents the radical and irrational acceptance of the worst possible outcome for Jesus.
That's deep.
And I paused the video and I wrote that down, and I said, there it fucking is, bro. That is the answer. That's part of the answer as to why they're able to carry, and even Muslims, that's a big part of the reason why they're able to carry themselves with the amount of grace that they do. And no matter what you do, these people stay 10 toes down. They say, yo, God got me, bro, so I'm chilling. They'll smile, bro.
Yeah.
They'll smile. They don't know what they're going to eat tonight. They'll smile.
Mm-hmm.
And I was never somebody that was like that. I was like, no, we gotta figure it out. And lately, that has been my bread and butter. The irrational acceptance of the worst possible outcome has been the answer to me approaching this demon. And I remember we spoke earlier, and for those who obviously weren't there, I have my meeting or my appointment with an insurance agent from the state on the 7th. And I mentioned to Joel that was my judgment day. Mm-hmm. And he was a little taken back as to why I framed it that way. Yeah. And I couldn't wait for our conversation to talk about it. But that's what it feels like, brother. That's what it feels like. And the reason why I'm able to smile right now, and the reason why I'm able to go home after this and play video games, is because of just that. I've identified the worst possible outcomes, and I haven't made peace with them 100% because they give me anxiety still, but I'm aware of them. And it's like, that's all you got? You know what I mean?
That's interesting.
That's all you got, bro? That's the worst thing, bro? And the worst things are pretty bad for me. Yeah, of course. Because I have a chronic disease that is very debilitating. But just me identifying the worst possible outcomes have brought me the amount of peace where I can, like I said, smile with you right now. Yeah. And play video games after this and just smile with my friends next weekend. And so I wanted to hear your experience with a demon inconquerable, because I wasn't 100% sure if you were aware of the same realization I came to with the cross. Yeah. So, but if I had to give any advice to anybody right now, it would be that you have to irrationally accept the fact that the worst possible outcome is what it is, and it isn't what it isn't. And you need to take it day by day, roll with the punches
every day, and
just keep moving forward and just keep trying no matter what.
You know, I find it very interesting that you brought up the perspective, or at least looking from the outside, right? Yeah. Towards a Christian, and I completely agree with you. Yeah. In regards to that, and I say we, not necessarily because I consider myself a Christian. I am a disciple of Christ. But what I have learned, and to this day still struggle with, is that there are certain phrases that Christians would use that would remind them of the truth. In my perspective, what I say is the truth. So, for example, they would say things like, "To God be the glory." Right? Let's just say that this podcast reaches 1 million people.
God willing.
God willing?
Yeah.
And then to God be the glory.
Interesting.
Not even to me. Who am I? Am I not just a vessel?
Yeah, and it's so interesting because I noticed that a part of the Christian faith and faith in general, religion in general, that I have trouble with is surrendering.
Surrendering is a hard one.
Surrendering. I grew up in a household where I had a lesbian mom, and we went to church, but I noticed that shortly after, sometimes the word got out that she might be lesbian, or maybe it was just due to our economic adversity. But we switched churches a lot. We went from Catholic to Christian, from Christian to Catholic again, and then we ended up in like a rundown small church at one point. But what were you going to ask?
Even though you went to church, did you ever have conversations inside of the house?
No.
Interesting.
It was never really spoken about. Okay. We had crosses above every door, but it wasn't like it wasn't even really a thing I was aware of. They were spitting game to me and knowledge to me that I wasn't ready to take as a child. I remember falling asleep a lot during church.
Yeah, of course.
I remember being very bored.
Like, why are we here?
Yeah, I used to play tic-tac-toe with my little sister. And every once in a while, they would hook us in with the music. But that was only at the Christian churches when, we got to clap and we got to jump in place and we got to kind of like be a little bit more engaged. But yeah, bro, I think I said this to my boss recently because he's a Christian at the moment. Yeah. And I told him, I said, Christianity saved me, is currently saving me right now.
That's beautiful.
And I'm not a Christian.
That's fine.
But Christianity is saving me at the moment.
Yeah.
100%.
There's a phrase.
But he loves it. He had the same reaction.
I'm genuinely happy to hear that.
And I wonder if he said in his head, "To glory be to God."
Probably.
Or to God be the glory. How do you?
Yeah.
Yeah. I wonder if that's what he said. Yeah.
There's a verse in the Bible that I think about from time to time, where I want to touch on two things.
Go ahead.
There's a verse in the Bible that discusses Jesus speaking always in parables. I think the fact that Jesus, 90% of the time, spoke in parables is the most beautiful aspect of the Gospels. Yeah. Because then they can be interpreted in a million different ways.
What's interesting is that you're holding your daughter right now, and for the record, this is why we're speaking in kind of like more of a mellow tone, because we don't want to wake her up. But to her, you are speaking in parables, or you will be speaking in parables when she's able to comprehend sentences a little bit better. So, was he really speaking in parables, or was he just speaking truths that we are incapable of understanding at the moment? But carry on. I just wanted to plant that.
I like that. One of the things that he said was the birds, right? Does God not feed them every day? Right?
Yeah.
The flowers in the field, are they not clothed by their beauty?
This is in the Bible?
This is in the Bible. What more would God do to you, O ye little faith? Like, why are you worried about food? Why are you worried about clothing? Like, if God provides for the birds and for the flowers and for the trees and nature in general, what more wouldn't he do for you? And I think about that like from time to time. Like, when
tough. The Bible is a tough read.
This is why I'm telling you that the Bible is not meant to be quote unquote read.
Yeah.
It's something that you sit down and you analyze.
I'm rereading Genesis right now.
Go to Proverbs.
Interesting.
And this is the second topic that I wanted to discuss, because bringing it all back, when we discussed wounded and wisdom.
Yeah.
When I was 16, 17, my favorite book in the Bible
was Proverbs.
The reason for that And it's so interesting. Proverbs is written by, allegedly, it's written by King Solomon.
Yeah.
Which is the son of King David.
Right.
And, I mean, he had it all. He had like 300 wives, 500 concubines, wealth.
Yeah.
Beyond measure.
Everything you can think of.
Everything you could think of, right?
Yeah.
So when he goes and, yearly sacrifice to just thank God, what can a man with that much stature, that much wealth, that access to women, like everything that a man can ask for?
He had it.
What else can he ask God for? And ironically, he asked for wisdom. And he said, God, give me wisdom so that I may lead your people. Because he's a king.
Yeah.
And now he needs to lead the entire population of Israel.
Yeah.
Right? And he was the one that wrote, and because of that, God blessed him and named him the wisest man of all time. And he was the one that wrote the book of Proverbs. There's a few chapters there that other people have written, but he wrote the book of Proverbs. And when you go through the book of Proverbs,
yeah,
you're like, dude,
yeah,
this is beyond time. Like these are nuggets of wisdom that transcend time. And I was just like, yo, this is the most beautiful thing I've ever seen in my life.
Yeah, I remember the first time I was given a Bible translated in English, because we always went to Spanish churches. I remember as a kid trying to look through it, and the only thing I had highlighted in that, and I will never forget this, bro. I highlighted the wicked bring about their own downfall. And for our conversation's sake, the wounded always bring about their own downfall.
Yeah.
And it was so interesting because I wasn't ready for that kind of knowledge.
Yeah.
And I didn't rethink that thought or remember that memory until I was in college, actually. And I remembered, actually I was not in college. I'm lying to you 100%. But I remember when my little sister told me she was pregnant at the age of 15. And my brain, that was the first thing my brain thought of when she said that to me. And I said to her some terrible things. I told her I didn't ever want to speak with her again. And we can talk about it in the future, but for conversation's sake now.
Yeah.
But, I remember me remembering that proverb in that moment. And it clicked for me right there that, like, people needed to, sometimes the best way of learning things is by going through it yourself. And for the record's sake, I'm so proud of her now. She's come such a long way.
Yeah.
And she inspires me so much now. I love that fucking little shit. But I remember that freaking proverb came right back to my head.
Yeah.
When it came. And yeah, bro.
And it goes back to what
deep.
It is deep. And it goes back to what we were saying. Remember how I discussed my aunt, how she would talk?
Yeah.
And it's the same thing. It's like you, in that one moment, the proverb just happened to kick in, right?
Yeah.
You could have sat with that proverb for years, and it would have never clicked. And it just so happens that at that time it just clicked, right? Yeah. And then it's the same thing with the rest of information and knowledge.
To gather this up and to wrap it up, I want to ask you a question.
Go ahead.
If you could add one quote to the book of Proverbs, what would it be?
I think it would be an African proverb. Yeah.
That is not in the Christian.
That is not in the Christian.
The Bible, right?
Yeah.
Okay, what would it be?
Give me a second.
It might be the one you told me a few weeks ago, and I wrote down on my vision board.
I wonder what it was.
If there is no enemy within,
the enemy outside can do us no harm.
Say that one more time for us.
If there is no enemy within, the enemy outside can do us no harm.
Boom. That's deep.
That's real.
That's deep. Projecting insecurities and previous frustrations on the certain situations is a whole other conversation to be had
For sure.
for another day, right? But I think that maybe there are some proverbs that speak on that, but I definitely think that that is a very, very good. I think that's a good one to throw in there.
Yeah.
100%.
It just always reminds me that in reality, the true enemy is within yourself.
Mm-hmm.
It reminds me of when Jesus was in the desert fasting for 40 days and 40 nights, and the devil appeared to him. It's one of the only moments in the New Testament that is discussed that the devil shows up.
Mm-hmm.
And Jesus was alone in the desert, right? And the Bible states that he was tempted by the devil. And when you really think about it, he was tempted by himself.
Not the devil. He doesn't have the power to create. He only has the power to influence.
Exactly. At the end of the day, there was only one enemy there, and it was within himself, and he conquered it.
Yeah. Good for him, right?
There's no enemy within.
Jesus is kind of a badass.
Bro, stop playing with him, bro. Ladies and gentlemen, my daughter has just woken up, and so we are going to end this podcast here.
Wow, perfect timing, right?
Right, baby?
Hola, nena. Good morning. We got a lot more time than we could have asked for.
Yeah,
too.
for sure.
Yeah, she let us rock. Yeah, she let us rock.
Make sure to subscribe, follow us. If you guys like the content that we are creating here, please give us a share, give us a shout out. Let us know what you guys would love to hear more from us.
Yeah, chat with us in the comments too. If you agree or disagree, we're not scaling yet, so we would love to talk with you also.
Yeah,
maybe
for sure.
Even phone you while we're recording.
I think overall these conversations are more insightful than I would have predicted.
Oh yeah, 100%.
So I'm sure that you guys will benefit from them long term, and we're hoping to give you guys more content.
Yeah, we love you guys. 100%.
Take care. Peace out.